Officers, could I please see your search warrant? Harold Newman stands in his own doorway on Tuesday morning, March 2024. Coffee steam rises from the kitchen behind him. He speaks calmly, respectfully, to the armed men flooding his front porch. Warrant? Boy, you don't get to ask for shit. Detective Ray Sullivan shoves past Harold into the living room. Keep your mouth shut and maybe this goes easy. Dad, what's happening? 8-year-old Tommy appears at the top of the stairs. Get that kid out of here before something bad happens, another officer sneers. Other officers spread through the house, boots pounding hardwood floors. Tommy and Emma cry from the stairway. Lisa clutches them protectively, whispering reassurances. Please, we have documentation. My ID is right there on the counter. Shut up. We know exactly what we're doing here. Neighbors peer through curtains. Nobody calls for help. Nobody questions the scene. But something glints beside Harold's wallet, something that will shatter Sullivan's confidence. Stay with me. This gets explosive. 2 hours earlier, Harold Newman's biggest concern was getting Tommy to finish his math homework. The house smells of vanilla and cinnamon. Lisa stands at the stove, flipping pancakes while humming softly. Morning sunlight streams through kitchen windows, casting warm squares across their hardwood floors. This is their sanctuary, their piece of the American dream. Harold adjusts his tie, the same navy blue he wears every Tuesday for his government job downtown. Cybersecurity analyst work requires precision, attention to detail, the kind of methodical thinking that makes him double-check Tommy's multiplication tables and help Emma sound out difficult words in her picture books. Daddy, can you drive me to school today? Emma asks, syrup dripping from her fork. Of course, Princess. Harold kisses the top of her head. But only if you promise to share those art projects with Mrs. Henderson. This is what they worked for. A 3-bedroom house in Maple Grove. Good schools, safe streets, neighbors who wave from their driveways and complain about property taxes instead of gunshots. Harold's phone buzzes with morning emails, routine security updates, network maintenance schedules. Nothing classified, nothing urgent. Just the steady hum of protecting digital infrastructure that most Americans never think about. You're going to be late, Lisa reminds him, pecking his cheek. 5 more minutes. Harold steals another sip of coffee, savoring these moments. Tommy argues with Emma over the last pancake. Lisa mediates with practiced patience. Normal family chaos. The neighborhood outside their windows tells a story of suburban success. Manicured lawns, 2-car garages, basketball hoops in driveways where kids like Tommy practice free throws after homework. Harold chose this place deliberately. Safety, stability, a buffer between his children and the world's harder edges. His NSA badge sits beside his car keys, routine as his wallet. 15 years of service, clearance levels that took extensive background checks to earn. Work that matters, protecting systems that keep society functioning. Harold takes pride in serving his country, even when most people never know what he does. Remember, I pick up groceries after work, Lisa calls from the kitchen. Tommy has practice at 6. Emma's parent-teacher conference is Thursday, Harold adds, checking his calendar. Ordinary Tuesday rhythms, school schedules, soccer practice, grocery runs, the beautiful mundane reality of middle-class family life. Harold glances at his watch. Still early, but he likes arriving at the office before his team. Set the right tone. Shows leadership through example. His supervisor always praises Harold's reliability, his calm, analytical approach to complex security challenges. The coffee tastes perfect this morning. Lisa found a new blend at the local roaster, something with hints of chocolate and orange. Small pleasures that make suburban life worthwhile. Through the window, Harold notices unusual activity down the street. More police cars than normal. Probably another domestic dispute at the Thompson house. Maple Grove stays quiet most days, but every neighborhood has its problems. Is everything okay out there? Lisa asks, following his gaze. Just keeping an eye on things. Harold shrugs. Part of being a good neighbor. He finishes his coffee, kisses his family goodbye, and heads toward the garage. Another day of protecting digital networks, another evening of homework help and bedtime stories. The rhythm they've built together feels unbreakable, but sometimes the world has other plans. Harold never makes it to his car. The front door explodes inward with splintering force. Armed officers pour through like floodwater, weapons raised, shouting commands that overlap into chaos. "Police! Nobody moves! Get down! Get down now!" Detective Sullivan leads the charge, his eyes scanning the room with predatory focus. When he spots Harold frozen by the kitchen counter, something shifts in his expression. Something ugly. "Well, well, look what we got here." Harold's hands rise instinctively. "Officers, there's been a mistake. I live here. This is my house." "Your house?" Sullivan's laugh carries pure contempt. "Right, and I'm the Pope." From upstairs, Emma's scream pierces the morning air. Tommy's voice follows, high and terrified. "Mommy, Mommy!" "Please." Harold keeps his voice steady, though his heart pounds. "My children are scared. Can you tell me what this is about?" "What is it about?" Sullivan steps closer, weapons still drawn. "It's about criminals thinking they can hide in fancy neighborhoods." Lisa appears at the top of the stairs, both children clinging to her nightgown. Her face goes white in the scene below. "Ma'am, keep those kids upstairs," Officer Martinez calls out, gentler than his partner. But Sullivan's attention never leaves Harold. "You people always think you're so smart, moving into neighborhoods where you don't belong." "Sir, I work for the government. There's been a serious misunderstanding." "Government?" Sullivan's voice drips mockery. "What government job? Picking up trash?" Harold forces himself to breathe slowly. Years of security training taught him to stay calm under pressure. "I can show you identification. My badge is right there on the counter." "Your badge?" Sullivan laughs again. "What are you, a mall cop?" Other officers spread through the house, their boots thundering on hardwood floors. Pictures rattle on walls. The careful peace of Harold's home shatters like glass. "Daddy!" Emma cries from the stairs. "It's okay, baby," Harold calls up, his voice breaking slightly. "Everything's going to be okay." "Nothing's okay here," Sullivan snarls. This is what happens when people get ideas above their station. Harold's neighbor, Mrs. Carter, peers through her front window. Her Ring doorbell camera captures everything: the lack of warrant presentation, the aggressive entry, the weapons drawn on a man in pajamas and a bathrobe. "Check the upstairs," Sullivan orders. "These people always hide something." "Please, not in front of my children," Harold pleads. "Your children?" Sullivan's voice turns vicious. "You should have thought about them before you decided to play house in the suburbs." Martinez shifts uncomfortably. Something about this feels wrong. The house is immaculate. Family photos line the walls. Children's drawings hang on the refrigerator. This doesn't match their intelligence reports. "Detective, maybe you should shut up and do your job," Sullivan cuts him off. Harold watches his daughter's terrified face at the top of the stairs. Watch his son cling to his mother. Watch armed strangers tear through the life he built. "I'm reaching for my identification," Harold announces clearly. "It's on the counter beside the coffee maker." "Don't move," Sullivan barks. "You asked for identification. It's right there." Harold's hand moves slowly toward the counter, past his wallet, past his car keys, toward the small leather case that holds his federal credentials. "I said don't move," but Harold's fingers close around the badge case, opens it carefully. The gold shield catches morning sunlight streaming through the kitchen window. Sullivan's eyes follow the movement. His expression shifts from aggression to confusion to something approaching panic. The badge reads, "United States National Security Agency." The room falls silent except for Emma's quiet sobbing upstairs. Sullivan stares at the badge, then at Harold, then back at the badge. For the first time since entering Harold's home, Detective Ray Sullivan looks uncertain. This changes everything. The badge changes nothing. And everything. Sullivan stares at the NSA credentials for 3 long seconds, then snaps the case shut. "Fake," he declares. "These people will try anything." "Detective," Martinez whispers urgently. "That looked official." "I don't care if it looked like the president's autograph," Sullivan snarls. "We got a tip about this address. We follow through." But his voice carries less certainty now. His hands shake slightly as he holsters his weapon. "Please verify my employment," Harold says quietly. "Call the federal office. End this mistake." "The only mistake," Sullivan replies, "is thinking a fancy fake badge will save you." 20 minutes later, they leave. No arrest. No explanation. Just boot prints on Harold's hardwood floors and traumatized children upstairs. Harold files a complaint within the hour. The Metro Police Department's response arrives 2 days later. Standard bureaucratic language. Officers followed proper procedures based on credible intelligence received. No acknowledgement of the warrant issue. No mention of the NSA badge. Captain James Wilson speaks to Channel 7 News that evening. "Detective Sullivan is a 15-year veteran with an exemplary record. These allegations are completely without merit." The reporter presses, "But sir, the homeowner claims to be a federal employee." "Anyone can buy a badge online these days," Wilson shrugs. "We see fake credentials all the time." Harold watches the news segment from his living room. Lisa sits beside him, holding Emma, who still flinches at unexpected noises. "They're calling you a liar on television," Lisa says softly. "I know." Tommy appears in the doorway, backpack slung over his shoulder. "Dad, kids at school are asking questions about the police cars." Harold's heart breaks a little more. "What kind of questions?" "If we're criminals. If we're going to move away." The neighborhood divides quickly. Mrs. Carter brings over the casserole and offers to testify about what she witnessed. The Thompsons across the street suddenly avoid eye contact during evening walks. The Johnsons 2 houses down post a thin blue line flag the next day. "Supporting our boys in blue," Mr. Johnson tells anyone who'll listen. "These people need to understand respect for law and order." Harold's supervisor calls that same afternoon. "There's been some inquiries about your employment status from local law enforcement." "What kind of inquiries?" "Questions about your security clearance, your legitimacy. I assured them everything was verified and current, but..." The pause stretches uncomfortably. "But," Harold prompts, "but maybe you should take some personal time. Let this blow over." Harold feels something cold settle in his stomach. "Are you suggesting I'm a security risk?" "I'm suggesting that negative attention isn't helpful for anyone involved." So this is how it works. Even with federal credentials, even with 15 years of service, even with clearances that took months to verify, one racist cop's assumptions can poison everything. Channel 7 runs a follow-up story 3 days later. Local homeowner claims police harassment. The segment includes Wilson's dismissive comments and grainy footage from Mrs. Carter's doorbell camera. But the angle doesn't capture the badge clearly. "Convenient," Wilson tells the reporter. "No actual proof of federal employment." That night, Harold sits at his kitchen counter, the same spot where Sullivan first saw his NSA badge. Coffee grows cold while he stares at his phone. Lisa finds him there at midnight. "Come to bed." "They're questioning everything. My job, my clearance, my right to live here." "We have documentation. We have proof." "Do we?" Harold's voice carries exhaustion. "When was the last time you heard anyone believe a black man over a white cop?" But something shifts the next morning. Harold's phone rings before dawn. "Mr. Newman, this is Agent Patricia Brooks, FBI Office of Inspector General. We understand there was an incident involving federal employee credentials." Harold sits up straighter. "Yes, ma'am. We'd like to discuss this matter with you. Today." if possible. The local police department says my credentials are fake. Mr. Newman, we've verified your employment status, your security clearance, your federal service record. Agent Brooks's voice carries steel. Someone is going to answer for this. Across town, Captain Wilson receives a different kind of phone call. This is Agent Brooks, FBI. We need to schedule a meeting regarding one of your officers' conduct during a recent incident. Wilson's coffee mug stops halfway to his lips. I'm sorry, which incident? The unlawful search of NSA analyst Harold Newman's residence. We'll be there this afternoon. Wilson hangs up and immediately calls Sullivan. Ray, we have a problem, a big one. What kind of problem? The federal kind. That badge you said was fake? It's real. Very real. For the first time in 15 years, Detective Ray Sullivan feels genuinely afraid. They thought they could bury this with bureaucratic doublespeak and media spin. They thought Harold Newman was just another black man in a neighborhood he couldn't afford, with credentials he didn't earn. They were wrong about everything. The FBI wants answers. Agent Brooks arrives with documentation that changes everything. She walks into Captain Wilson's office carrying a manila folder thick with federal paperwork. Behind her, Agent Martinez from the Department of Justice Internal Affairs Division takes notes. Harold Newman, Brooks begins without pleasantries, has held top-secret clearance for 15 years. His current assignment involves protecting critical infrastructure networks for the National Security Agency. Wilson shifts in his chair. We received intelligence suggesting— You received what, exactly? Brooks interrupts. Because according to dispatch records, Detective Sullivan requested this address based on an anonymous tip about suspicious activity. The folder opens with crisp efficiency. Brooks spreads documents across Wilson's desk like playing cards. Employment verification, security clearance confirmations, federal service records. Your officer told Channel 7 that anyone can buy a badge online, Brooks continues. This particular badge requires FBI background investigation, polygraph examination, and congressional notification. Wilson stares at the paperwork. His mouth moves without sound. Furthermore, Agent Martinez adds, dispatch records show the intended address was 847 Maple Grove Lane. Detective Sullivan raided 847 Maple Grove Avenue. Wrong street, wrong house, wrong family. A clerical error, Wilson begins. A clerical error that resulted in federal employee intimidation, Brooks cuts him off, which falls under our jurisdiction. The power dynamic in the room shifts like tectonic plates. Wilson, who spent 3 days defending Sullivan on television, now faces federal investigators taking notes about his department's competence. Brooks pulls out her phone. Director Morrison, Agent Brooks. Yes, sir, we've confirmed the incident. NSA analyst Harold Newman. Full federal employee protections apply. Wilson can hear the voice on the other end. Authoritative. Displeased. Federal. The Newman family will receive full victim services support, Brooks announces, and Detective Sullivan will answer federal questions about civil rights violations. Outside the police station, Harold's phone rings. Mr. Newman? Agent Brooks. Your federal employment status has been fully verified and communicated to local authorities. What does that mean? It means Detective Sullivan no longer gets to decide whether your credentials are legitimate. The Federal Bureau of Investigation does. Harold sits in his car, hands trembling slightly. For 3 days, he's been treated like a criminal in his own neighborhood. His children are afraid to answer the door. His wife jumped at every unexpected sound. Sir? Harold's voice catches. What happens now? Now, Mr. Newman, people start taking responsibility for their actions. Channel 7's evening news leads with a different story. Federal investigation launched into police raid. The same reporter who questioned Harold's credentials now describes his verified federal service record and top-secret security clearance. Captain Wilson faces the camera with visible discomfort. We are cooperating fully with federal investigators. If mistakes were made, we will address them appropriately. The reporter presses harder. Captain, your department publicly questioned Mr. Newman's employment. Federal agents have now confirmed his credentials. How do you explain this discrepancy? No further comment at this time. But the damage is done. The narrative has flipped completely. Harold Newman isn't a suspicious character who doesn't belong in his neighborhood. He's a federal cybersecurity analyst whose constitutional rights were violated by local police. Detective Sullivan watches the news from his living room, beer growing warm in his hand. His phone has been ringing all evening. Other officers asking questions, friends expressing concern. His wife wondered why federal agents wanted to interview him. 3 days ago, he controlled the situation. Badges, guns, authority. Harold Newman was just another suspect who needed to learn respect. Now Sullivan faces federal civil rights investigators who don't care about his 15 years of service or his arrest statistics. They care about one question. Why did he raid the home of an NSA analyst without a warrant? And Sullivan doesn't have a good answer. The hunters have become the hunted. Federal oversight changes everything. Agent Brooks opens her investigation like a surgeon making precise incisions. The evidence room at FBI headquarters fills with boxes labeled Newman Investigation. But Harold's case is just the beginning. Each document reveals connections to something larger, more systematic. Pull Detective Sullivan's personnel file, Brooks instructs her team. I want every complaint, every incident report, every use of force documentation from the past 5 years. The file arrives within hours. Thick manila folders that tell a disturbing story. March 2019. Excessive force complaint from Marcus Williams, dismissed after insufficient evidence. Williams described being thrown to the ground during a traffic stop in his own driveway. Williams is black. August 2020. Civil rights complaint from the Rodriguez family, dismissed after conflicting witness statements. Rodriguez described officers searching his home without probable cause, then claiming they smelled marijuana. No drugs found. Rodriguez is Hispanic. January 2022. Use of force incident involving James Foster, dismissed after Foster declined to press charges. Foster described being pepper sprayed while handcuffed. Foster is black. See the pattern? Brooks shows the files to Agent Martinez. Same detective, different victims, all minorities. All dismissed by the same captain. The email server reveals more troubling evidence. Internal communications between Sullivan and his fellow officers recovered through federal digital forensics. Check this out. Agent Martinez highlights a message thread from Sullivan to Officer Davis, dated 2 weeks before the Newman raid. Another uppity family moved into Maple Grove. Time for a wellness check. These people need to understand their place. Davis responds, anonymous tip incoming? Sullivan replies, you read my mind. The federal grant documents paint the ugliest picture yet. Metro Police Department receives $2.3 million annually in federal funding tied to arrest statistics. Departments that increase drug-related arrests receive bonus allocations. Agent Brooks studies the spreadsheet. Look at the correlation. Neighborhoods with increasing minority populations show spikes in anonymous tips and warrantless searches. The data is damning. Maple Grove, previously 89% white, now 34% minority. Police activity increased 340% in the same period. They're not fighting crime, Martinez realizes. They're fighting demographics. Federal investigators expand beyond Sullivan. Phone records show coordination between multiple officers. Text messages reveal planning sessions for targeting problematic addresses. Body camera footage, previously dismissed as technical malfunctions, gets federal analysis. The recovered footage tells Harold's story and dozens more. August 15, 2023. The Martinez family, 5 and 23 Maple Grove Avenue. Officers storm their home claiming suspicious odor reports. No warrant, no drugs found. Children traumatized. Maria Martinez, a nurse at Minneapolis General, files a complaint. Dismissed. September 3, 2023. The Jackson family, 445 Maple Grove Court. An anonymous tip about loud music results in a full SWAT response at 6 a.m. No noise violations found. Robert Jackson, a software engineer at 3M, files a complaint. Dismissed. November 12, 2023. The Thompson family, Black, 729 Maple Grove Lane. Officers claim welfare check concerns, but arrive with tactical gear. No emergency found. Diana Thompson, a high school principal, files a complaint. Dismissed. Each incident follows identical patterns. Anonymous tips. Aggressive response. Minority families. Professional careers that don't fit Sullivan's stereotypes. How many families? Brooks asks. 14 documented incidents in Maple Grove alone. Probably more in other neighborhoods. Sarah Mitchell, investigative journalist for Minneapolis Star-Tribune, receives a call from her FBI contact. Sarah, you need to see this. Federal investigation into systematic civil rights violations. Multiple families affected. How multiple? Try systematic targeting of professional minority families across 3 police districts. Mitchell's investigation reveals the financial incentives driving the harassment. Federal grants tied to arrest statistics create perverse motivation for officers to manufacture probable cause in affluent minority neighborhoods. The math is simple, Mitchell explains to her editor. More arrests in wealthy zip codes equals more federal funding. Minorities in expensive neighborhoods become revenue generators. What would you do in Harold's situation? When the system meant to protect you becomes the system targeting your family? The evidence keeps mounting. Financial records show Sullivan received commendations and bonus payments correlated with his arrest statistics in minority neighborhoods. His supervisor, Captain Wilson, signed off on every dismissal of every complaint. Agent Brooks interviews Harold again, this time with a federal stenographer present. Mr. Newman, were you aware of similar incidents affecting your neighbors? I suspected something was wrong. The Martinez family mentioned police harassment. The Jacksons talked about feeling unwelcome. But I thought... You thought what? I thought my government position would protect my family. I thought following rules, paying taxes, serving my country meant something. It does mean something, Mr. Newman. That's why we're here. The internal affairs files reveal Wilson's role in the systematic cover-up. Every complaint against Sullivan was buried using identical language, insufficient evidence, conflicting statements, unfounded allegations. But federal investigators use different standards. They examine patterns across multiple incidents. They interview victims whose complaints were dismissed. They analyze digital evidence local departments claimed was corrupted. Dr. Angela Foster, criminology professor at University of Minnesota, reviews the FBI data. This represents textbook institutional racism, she explains. Systematic targeting based on racial demographics, justified through fabricated probable cause, protected by administrative dismissal of legitimate complaints. The evidence expands beyond Maple Grove. Similar patterns emerge in Richfield, Edina, and Plymouth. Professional minority families, anonymous tips, aggressive responses, dismissed complaints. FBI agents interview Maria Martinez, the nurse whose family was terrorized 8 months before Harold. They treated us like criminals in our own home, Martinez testifies. My daughter still has nightmares. She asks why the police hate us. Robert Jackson, the software engineer, provides similar testimony. They destroyed our sense of safety. My son refuses to invite friends over because he's afraid the police will come back. Diana Thompson, the high school principal, describes lasting trauma. I counsel students about trusting authority, following rules, and believing in justice. How do I explain that the police targeted my family because we don't fit their stereotype of who belongs in our neighborhood? The federal investigation reveals Sullivan's unit operated as a systematic intimidation campaign. Professional minority families were researched, surveilled, and harassed until they either moved away or stopped complaining. Ethnic cleansing through police harassment, Agent Brooks summarizes, legal intimidation designed to maintain neighborhood demographics. Captain Wilson's emails, recovered through federal subpoena, expose his knowledge and approval. Keep pressure on these newcomers. Property values depend on maintaining community standards. Anonymous tips are effective tools for addressing demographic concerns. Federal grants reward proactive policing in changing neighborhoods. The Department of Justice Civil Rights Division officially opened an investigation into Metro Police Department's practices. This triggers federal oversight authority that local officials cannot dismiss or ignore. Harold receives official notification. Federal investigation confirms systematic civil rights violations affecting multiple families. Full victim services support authorized. But the investigation reveals something else. Something that will shatter Sullivan's confidence completely. The NSA has been monitoring police communications as part of domestic security protocols. Every text message, every email, every recorded conversation about targeting federal employees. Sullivan doesn't just face local accountability anymore. He faces federal prosecutors who don't negotiate with domestic terrorists. The hunt for justice is just beginning. The system fights back with vicious efficiency. Harold's phone rings at 3:47 a.m. Unknown number. When he answers, silence stretches for 10 seconds before the line goes dead. This happens 3 more times that week. Probably telemarketers, Lisa suggests, but her voice lacks conviction. The harassment escalates quickly. Strange cars idle outside their house at odd hours. Harold's garbage gets accidentally scattered across his lawn twice in 1 week. Someone keys his car in the NSA parking garage. Captain Wilson coordinates the counterattack from his office. Emergency meetings with union representatives, conference calls with the mayor's office, damage control sessions with the Police Benevolent Association. We cannot let federal investigators dictate local law enforcement policy, Wilson tells his assembled command staff. Detective Sullivan followed proper procedures based on intelligence received. The department's narrative hardens into concrete. Official statements get distributed to local media, talking points circulated among officers, a coordinated defense against federal intrusion. The Metro Police Department maintains that officers followed proper procedures and acted on credible intelligence regarding suspicious activity. Any allegations of misconduct are unfounded and appear motivated by anti-police sentiment rather than factual evidence. But behind the public relations facade, Wilson implements more direct pressure tactics. Harold's supervisor at NSA receives an unexpected visit. 2 men in suits who identify themselves as police liaisons, questioning Harold's stability and reliability following the incident. Has Mr. Newman displayed any unusual behavior, anger issues, resentment toward law enforcement? Harold is one of our most stable analysts, his supervisor responds carefully. 15 years of exemplary service. Sometimes trauma can affect judgment. Security clearances require emotional stability. The implication hangs in the air like poison gas. That same day, Lisa receives a phone call at her job. Mrs. Newman, this is Officer Davis, Metro Police Community Relations. We're concerned about your husband's recent statements to federal investigators. What statements? False accusations can have serious consequences for everyone involved. Are you threatening my family? Just sharing information about how these situations typically resolve. Often it's better for everyone when families relocate. The message is crystal clear. Leave quietly or face escalating consequences. Emma starts having nightmares again. Tommy asks why strange men sit in cars watching their house. Lisa installs new locks on every door and window. Internal police communications, intercepted by federal monitoring, reveal the coordination. Wilson to Sullivan, 11:43 p.m. Federal heat getting intense. Time for Phase 2 pressure. Make life uncomfortable. Sullivan to Davis, 6:22 a.m. Target the wife's employment. kids' school, community connections, squeeze until they break. Davis to Martinez, 2:15 p.m. Anonymous tips about unstable federal employee spreading. Plant seeds everywhere. The campaign expands systematically. Harold's children's school receives anonymous calls questioning their father's mental state and potential security risks. Lisa's employer gets similar contacts expressing community concerns about employing the wife of someone under federal investigation. Local newspapers receive carefully crafted leaks. Federal employee claims harassment after legitimate police investigation. The coverage subtly questions Harold's credibility while defending department integrity. Wilson holds a press conference designed to undermine federal authority. Local law enforcement will not be intimidated by federal overreach. Our officers acted professionally and lawfully. These allegations represent an attack on all police officers who risk their lives protecting our communities. The police union issues supporting statements. Rank-and-file officers express solidarity with Sullivan. Blue wall protection activates with military precision. But the pressure campaign's crown jewel targets Harold's security clearance. Anonymous complaints flood NSA internal affairs. Security concerns regarding Harold Newman. Questions about emotional stability. Potential compromise of classified information following personal grudge against law enforcement. Harold's supervisor calls him into a closed-door meeting. Internal Affairs wants to review your clearance status. Standard procedure when external allegations surface. What allegations? Questions about your reliability, your judgment, your emotional balance following the police incident. Harold feels the walls closing in. Without security clearance, his career ends. Without his career, his family loses everything they've built. Sir, my conduct has been exemplary for 15 years. I know. But perception matters in security work. Controversy raises questions. Questions require investigation. The system's message becomes unmistakable. Fight us. Lose everything. Your job, your clearance, your family's stability, your children's future. Lisa finds Harold sitting in their kitchen at midnight, staring at his NSA badge. They're going to destroy us, he whispers. We have federal support. Agent Brooks said, Agent Brooks can't protect my clearance review, can't stop anonymous complaints, can't prevent my career from being assassinated through administrative harassment. Outside their window, another unknown car idles at the corner. Same pattern, different night. Maybe we should move, Lisa suggests quietly. Start over somewhere else. Run away? Let them win? Protect our children. Protect our family. Harold considers this. Everything he's worked for, everything he's built, everything he believed about justice and accountability crumbled under systematic institutional pressure. The phone rings again. 2:17 a.m. Unknown number. This time, when Harold answers, a voice speaks. Drop the federal complaint, or your family pays the price. But Harold Newman doesn't know that federal investigators have been monitoring all police communications. Every threat, every coordinated attack, every criminal conspiracy to intimidate a federal employee. The hunters are about to become the hunted. Harold stares at the resignation letter on his laptop screen. 3 paragraphs that would end everything. His NSA career, the federal investigation, the systematic harassment of his family. Simple words that would make the nightmare stop. Effective immediately. I hereby resign from my position as senior cybersecurity analyst. Personal circumstances require immediate relocation. Lisa packs Emma's clothes in the bedroom upstairs. Boxes accumulate in hallways like cardboard tombstones of their suburban dreams. The moving truck comes tomorrow. Daddy, why are we leaving? Emma asks from the doorway, clutching her stuffed elephant. Harold closes the laptop. Sometimes grown-ups have to make hard choices, Princess. Did we do something wrong? The question breaks something inside Harold's chest. His 6-year-old daughter thinks her family deserves this treatment, thinks they're criminals fleeing justice instead of victims escaping persecution. No, baby, we didn't do anything wrong. But Harold's voice carries doubt. Maybe fighting back was wrong. Maybe accepting the harassment, moving away quietly, would have protected his children from this trauma. Tommy appears beside his sister. Kids at school are saying we're moving because Dad's in trouble with the police. Another knife twist. His 8-year-old son defended his father against schoolyard accusations. Children shouldn't need this kind of courage. What did you tell them? That you're not a bad guy, but nobody believes me anymore. Harold pulls both children close, breathing in their innocence. Everything he's done, every sacrifice made was supposed to protect them from exactly this kind of pain. The federal grant documents Agent Brooks shared yesterday reveal the ugly mathematics driving their persecution. Metro Police Department receives $47,000 bonus for every 10% increase in arrest statistics within targeted demographics. Harold's neighborhood represents $340,000 in potential federal funding if minority families can be eliminated through harassment. His family's suffering has a price tag, $340,000. Lisa finds him in the kitchen after the children go to bed. The realtor called. We have 3 showings tomorrow. Good. Is it? Lisa's voice carries exhaustion. Running away? Teaching our children that bullies win if they're wearing badges? Teaching our children to survive, to pick battles they can win. You think we can't win this? Harold gestures at the boxes surrounding them. Look around, Lisa. We're packing our lives into cardboard. How is this winning? Outside their window, the surveillance car maintains its position. Same spot, different shift. Constant reminder that they're being watched, cataloged, intimidated. Agent Brooks says the federal investigation is expanding. Multiple families coming forward, pattern evidence building. Agent Brooks doesn't live here, doesn't wake up to anonymous threats, doesn't watch her children flinch every time someone knocks on the door. Elisa sits beside him at their kitchen table, the same table where they shared thousands of family meals, where Tommy struggled with math homework, where Emma colored endless pictures of rainbows and puppies. 15 years of government service, Harold whispers. Protecting digital infrastructure that keeps society functioning, serving my country, following every rule. And for what? For your children to see their father fight for what's right. My children see their father losing. There's a difference. The phone rings. 11:47 p.m. Unknown number. Harold doesn't answer anymore. They rarely say anything anyway. Just silence designed to remind him they're watching. We could start over, Lisa suggests. Portland, Seattle, somewhere far from here. And when minority families get harassed there? When another Harold Newman needs support? Do we run again? We protect our family first. Harold nods. She's right. Family comes first. Everything else is luxury he can't afford anymore. His resignation letter waits on the laptop screen. 3 paragraphs that end the fight before it destroys what matters most. But somewhere in Minneapolis, other families pack their own boxes. Other children ask why they're moving. Other parents wonder if fighting back is worth the cost. This story isn't over yet. What would you do when the system meant to protect you becomes the system targeting your family? Stay with me for what happens next. Sarah Mitchell's phone buzzes at 6:30 a.m. with a text that changes everything. Ms. Mitchell, this is Maria Martinez. I read your article about the Newman family. The same thing happened to us. By noon, Mitchell's voicemail overflows with similar messages. The Jackson family, the Foster family, the Rodriguez family, the Thompson family. 14 families total, all with identical stories. Professional minority families, anonymous tips, warrantless raids, dismissed complaints. Systematic harassment until they moved away or stopped fighting back. It's not just Harold Newman, Mitchell tells her editor. It's a systematic campaign targeting successful minority families across 3 police districts. The story explodes across social media within hours. Hashtag Maple Grove. Targeting trends on Twitter. Facebook groups form overnight. Community organizing happens at digital speed. Dr. Angela Foster, the criminology professor, provides academic credibility. This represents textbook ethnic cleansing through law enforcement harassment, illegal, systematic, and documented. But the real breakthrough comes when Mrs. Carter, Harold's neighbor, organizes a community meeting. Enough, she announces to her Ring doorbell camera, footage that goes viral within hours. We've watched good families terrorized by bad police. Time to stand together. Maple Grove Community Center fills beyond capacity that Thursday evening. Harold arrives expecting maybe 20 supporters. Instead, he finds 300 neighbors packed into every available space. Maria Martinez takes the microphone first. They came to our house at 6 a.m. No warrant, no explanation, just guns and hatred and my children screaming. Robert Jackson follows. I'm a software engineer at 3M. I pay $47,000 annually in property taxes, and the police treated me like a criminal in my own driveway. Diana Thompson, the high school principal, delivers the most powerful testimony. I spend my career teaching students about justice, fairness, and constitutional rights. How do I explain that the police targeted my family because we're successful while black? Story after story, pattern after pattern, professional careers, stable families, American dream achievers who became police targets because they didn't fit Sullivan's demographic stereotypes. Harold takes the microphone last, hands trembling slightly. 3 weeks ago, I was ready to run away, pack my family and move somewhere safe. But there is no somewhere safe if we don't fight here, together. The applause lasts 2 full minutes. Agent Brooks appears in the back of the room during Harold's speech. After the meeting, she approaches him with news that changes everything. Mr. Newman, the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division has officially opened a pattern and practice investigation into the Metro Police Department. Full federal oversight authority. What does that mean? It means we have jurisdiction over every policy, procedure, and practice. Captain Wilson answers to federal authority now. Detective Sullivan faces federal civil rights charges. Mitchell's follow-up story runs the next morning. Federal investigation expands. DOJ probes systematic police harassment of minority families. The narrative shift is complete. Harold Newman isn't an isolated complainant anymore. He's the catalyst for exposing institutional racism that affected dozens of families across multiple communities. His resignation letter, still saved on his laptop, gets deleted that afternoon. The system thought it could isolate Harold, pressure him into silence, force his family to disappear quietly. Instead, they created a federal case study in civil rights violations. Sometimes truth multiplies when people find courage. Federal prosecutors don't negotiate with domestic terrorists. Agent Brooks enters Harold's living room carrying a tablet that will end Detective Sullivan's career forever. Mr. Newman, I need to show you something. But first, you should understand that what you're about to see is classified at the highest levels. Harold exchanges glances with Lisa. What is classified? The NSA monitors domestic communications when federal employees are threatened. Your security clearance triggered automatic surveillance protocols the moment Sullivan's unit began targeting your family. Brooks opens the tablet, revealing a digital interface labeled Domestic Counterintelligence Monitoring System. We have every text message, every phone call, every email between Sullivan, Captain Wilson, and their co-conspirators for the past 8 months. The screen fills with intercepted communications that read like a criminal conspiracy manual. Sullivan to Wilson, March 15th, 2:34 a.m. Newman problem solved. Anonymous tip filed for Wednesday morning. Time to remind these people where they belong. Wilson to Sullivan, March 15th, 6:47 a.m. Excellent. Federal grant review is next month. Need arrest statistics from target neighborhoods. Make it count. Sullivan to Davis, March 15th, 7:22 a.m. Maple Grove Operation Greenlight, no warrant needed. They never check anyway. Harold stares at the messages. They planned everything. The fake tip, the wrong address, the warrant violation. It gets worse, Brooks continues, scrolling to reveal financial documents. Metro Police Department receives federal grants based on arrest statistics in high-value demographics. Translation: more minority arrests equal more federal funding. The mathematical brutality is undeniable. Each harassed family represents potential revenue. Each traumatized child is a line item in a federal budget proposal. But the most damaging evidence comes from Sullivan's personal communications with his wife, intercepted through NSA domestic security protocols. Sullivan to wife, March 16th, 11:15 p.m. Taught another uppity family a lesson today. You should see how fast they learn respect when real authority shows up. Wife to Sullivan, March 16th, 11:18 p.m. Just be careful, Ray. These government types have connections. Sullivan to wife, March 16th, 11:23 p.m. Government types like him? Please. Probably affirmative action hire anyway. Badge is probably fake as his sense of belonging. The racial animus in writing. Federal prosecutors' dream evidence. Brooks reveals the final bombshell. The NSA identified this as domestic terrorism targeting federal employees. Your case triggered a joint task force between the FBI, the DOJ Civil Rights Division, and Homeland Security. Domestic terrorism? Systematic intimidation designed to drive federal employees from their homes based on racial demographics. Textbook definition. Harold realizes the scope of federal attention now focused on Sullivan's unit. Not local accountability, not departmental reform. Federal terrorism charges with decades of prison time. Brooks makes a phone call while Harold processes this information. Director Morrison? Agent Brooks. Yes, sir. Surveillance evidence is conclusive. Multiple federal crimes documented. Authorization for immediate arrests requested. When she hangs up, Brooks's expression has changed completely. Mr. Newman, federal marshals will arrest Detective Sullivan and Captain Wilson tomorrow morning. Charges include conspiracy against rights, intimidation of federal employees, and terrorism-related offenses under the Patriot Act. The irony is perfect. Sullivan used fear tactics to control minority families. Now, federal anti-terrorism laws will control him. What happens to my family? Full federal protection, victim services, financial compensation for damages, and Detective Sullivan serves 20 years minimum in federal prison. That evening, Harold calls his supervisor at NSA. Sir, I'm withdrawing my resignation. My family is staying in our home. The federal government doesn't ask permission. It acts. Sullivan has no idea what's coming for him tomorrow. The Minneapolis City Council chambers overflow with 300 citizens demanding answers. Harold sits at the witness table, federal agents flanking him, while news cameras broadcast live across the Twin Cities. This isn't a police department cover-up anymore. This is democracy in action. Council President Janet Morrison calls the session to order. We're here to address systematic civil rights violations by the Metro Police Department and announce federal oversight implementation. The gallery buzzes with energy. Families Sullivan targeted sit together in solidarity. Community leaders, civil rights advocates, federal investigators, and in the back corner, Captain Wilson, looking smaller than Harold remembered. Mr. Newman, Council President Morrison begins. Would you describe the March 15th incident for the record? Harold approaches the microphone. His voice carries calm authority when he speaks. Detective Sullivan entered my home without a warrant, terrorized my children, and treated my family like criminals because we didn't fit his stereotype of who belongs in our neighborhood. The chamber falls silent except for camera shutters clicking. When he discovered my NSA credentials, his first instinct wasn't an apology. It was denial. He called the Federal Service record fake rather than admit his mistake. Harold pauses, looking directly at Wilson in the gallery. But the evidence doesn't lie. 14 families were systematically targeted, professional careers dismissed, constitutional rights violated, children traumatized, all for federal grant money tied to arrest statistics. Maria Martinez testifies next, describing 8 months of harassment before Harold's incident brought federal attention. Robert Jackson explains how his software engineering career meant nothing when Sullivan decided he didn't belong in Maple Grove. Diana Thompson, the high school principal, delivers devastating testimony about explaining police racism to students while experiencing it personally. Agent Brooks presents federal findings to the council. Pattern and practice investigation confirms systematic civil rights violations spanning 3 years. 47 documented incidents targeting minority families based on racial demographics and socioeconomic assumptions. The official record includes intercepted communications showing coordination between officers, financial incentives driving harassment, and deliberate cover-ups by department leadership. Council President Morrison announces immediate reforms. Metro Police Department will implement federal oversight including mandatory civil rights training, independent complaint review board, body camera requirements for all interactions, and elimination of arrest-based grant funding. The policy changes Harold fought for become law in real time. Furthermore, Detective Sullivan and Captain Wilson face federal terrorism charges. Their employment with the Metro Police Department is terminated effective immediately. The gallery erupts in applause. Justice delivered through democratic process, not street violence or vigilante revenge. Harold requests permission to address the chamber one final time. 3 weeks ago, my family considered fleeing our home, moving away quietly, letting systematic racism win through our silence. His voice strengthens with each word. But running away doesn't protect the next family, the next children, the next citizens who deserve constitutional rights regardless of their skin color or neighborhood demographics. Harold looks directly into the television cameras broadcasting live. No badge places anyone above the Constitution. No uniform grants permission to violate civil rights. No grant money justifies domestic terrorism against American families. The standing ovation lasts 4 minutes. Democracy works when citizens demand it does. But Harold's fight isn't finished yet. Detective Ray Sullivan surrenders to federal marshals at 6 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. The same time he once terrorized Harold's family. The same arrogance replaced by handcuffs and federal terrorism charges, carrying 25 years minimum sentence. Captain Wilson follows 3 hours later. Conspiracy charges, civil rights violations, systematic corruption documented through 8 months of intercepted communications. 6 weeks later, Harold Newman stands in his kitchen, morning coffee steaming, children's laughter echoing upstairs. The same routine Sullivan tried to destroy. But everything has changed. Tommy shows his friends the newspaper article about his father's courage. Emma draws pictures of federal agents instead of hiding from police cars. Lisa plants flowers in their front yard, claiming their space permanently. New policies reshape the Metro Police Department completely. Independent oversight, mandatory de-escalation training, body cameras for every interaction, arrest quotas eliminated, federal monitoring for 5 years minimum. 14 families stay in their homes, no more midnight harassment, no more anonymous threats, no more children asking why police hate them. Harold returns to his NSA position with security clearance fully restored. His supervisor apologizes personally. His colleagues treat him as a hero who stood up to domestic terrorism. Sometimes a badge means nothing at all, unless it represents service, honor, and constitutional protection. Harold Newman proved that truth still matters, that justice still works, that courage still conquers hatred. No one stands above the Constitution. If stories like Harold's matter to you, if accountability journalism that creates real change resonates with your values, this channel is your home. Like this video if you believe in justice. Subscribe to Blacktail's Stories if you want more stories where truth defeats power. Comment below. What would you do in Harold's situation? Democracy demands vigilance. Justice requires courage. Change happens when good people refuse to stay silent.